So the next person I'd like to invite up here is Dr. Catherine Mavropoulos. Catherine is a professor at the University of Ottawa, and she's currently our NSERC Pratt and Whitney Chair for the region of Ontario. And I've had the great pleasure of working with Catherine over many years around the issue of women in engineering in Ontario. And she was a really advisor to me during this project and gave me some really sage words of advice and support. So I thank her very much for that. So Catherine, please support.
The reason I was so enthusiastic is because then if Mary does it, then I don't have to do it. So one less event per year. So I want to talk to you a bit today about what we do through the NSERC chair, which is the Ontario chair, and Val Davidson is here. She had the previous chair before me for Ontario for 8 years. So I'm trying to see if I can last that long. I'm finishing my 4th year and thinking about renewing. But it's been a lot of fun. So today I want to talk about, you're talking about the women of impact, but also the impact of women, which Sherry just talked to us about. And as Sherry mentioned, she didn't want to comment about the Pope dying. And it's a bit similar. My role is to promote other women, not so much myself, because we don't like to be in the spotlights, many of us who are in these technical fields. That's why we went into those fields in the first place. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about the ladies that we have been able to feature. So a little background about the chair program. There are 5 NSERC regional chairs indicated here in the 5 different regions. The ones that have a slash, they're just switching over right now from Elizabeth Croft to Leslie Shannon out in BC and Yukon. And Eve Langelier, University of Sherbrooke, is taking over from Nadia Ghazali. And this is a picture of us a few years ago, Val, right? When we all started. 3 of us started at once. So it's been a great network. So if you're from different parts of the country, you have resources through each one of these chair programs. And then we also do many things nationally as well as a network. We'd like to say we educate, celebrate, empower, support, and connect. So we do lots of things. The funding agency asks us to do many things, including research. So I have interdisciplinary research programs. One of them is with Ruby, who spoke to you this morning. We have a student looking at how the role of a computer scientist evolved. It's a fairly new profession, so why is it so gendered already? Our student Jennifer Thivierge is doing a PhD on that. So we get to do lots of interesting things through research. But today I'm going to talk to you mainly about our features and how we empower women by getting them to speak out, as Sherry says. So early on in my chair, Rio Tinto came to us, so I thought I'd show you this picture. Perhaps you've seen the videos that Rio Tinto has made of several of their women employees. Very interesting. So this one is Julie Bélan. Really interesting video. So these are the only ones I know that are more or less in your field directly. But what we did a while back is, if you know, Engineers Canada has an initiative that was started by Chantal Gay to try to get to 30% of new licensed engineers by 2030. And 30%, why 30? Because 30% is usually touted as a critical mass number. So if you get one person, as we mentioned this morning, one person at the table of a board of directors, 1 woman out of 10, you can have some effect. But if you have 3 out of 10, you can have much more effect because you can reinforce each other and then the discussion changes. So 30% is a good name. 30 and 30 sounds good. And so during National Engineering Month, which is March, we feature 30 women in 30 days. So it's kind of like an advent calendar. Each day you get to uncover 1 woman at a time and read their story. So you can go and visit those on our website. And we have some fantastic women in here. I think maybe some of you may know Marilyn Spink, who's up there on the left. She has a really good profile, as they all do. So that has been really successful. Then we have gone to themed campaigns per discipline. So we did a Women in IT month. So again, 1 woman a month. And so we try to also get these events to coincide with some other events. So in November, we have a Celebration of Women Computing Conference that happens yearly in Ontario, and it's going national for the first time this year. It's going to be in Ottawa in January. And this is Maria Clava, who was another former NSERC chair, and she's now the president of Harvey Mudd College, a really prestigious liberal arts college in Los Angeles, and because of that role, she is on the board of Microsoft, and knows Bill Gates on first-name basis. So she has a lot of influence, but she's also the most down-to-earth person you can meet. So she's a wonderful speaker, and she's a wonderful role model for this group. So we featured her. And so sometimes we're doing these things online, sometimes they're doing them through postcards to get people to come to our website. So I have a great communications team, started as students, now they're graduated and beyond, but they still are strategists for me. So as engineers, sometimes we need other people, of course, to tell our story, Sherry. And these girls have been great, and they've engineered a whole social media campaign for us. So you'll see some pieces of that as we go through it. We also, because my sponsor is Pratt & Whitney Canada, I'm also in the aerospace field. We have done several features of women in aerospace. So one of them was in a room downstairs, I guess, in this building a few years ago, 2013, and I think LV Dalgard was featured in that one. Also Pretty, where are you? Oh, here you are, featured in that campaign. So it's, you might think it's just stories about these women. It's a little bit of a, synopsis about where their career has gone and what they think. But it really does help network. So people have used our lists. I think Valerie used our list to find somebody to be elected to a position within PEO or OSPI. OSPI board. So people do use it as a resource, so it's kind of like a little LinkedIn. And then we've also tried to promote it on LinkedIn and other social media venues, and also try to get the women to be more comfortable promoting themselves. So we've done a little bit of analysis of the women who have been featured, and we're starting to notice that they are getting out there more and more. And we do see more postings on discussions on LinkedIn and things like that. So my little communications team is also doing all the analytics, which is great. So I think there is a good reason to do these things, in addition to what Ruby's mentioned this morning, to record their histories, so this stuff is not lost. The other thing we did, and this was started by Techsploration and the Atlantic Chair, Tamara France Odendahl, are some videos that are more aimed at younger people. So we use these to recruit people to science and engineering. Women, can be men as well, but I use this one at Ontario University's Fair, which happens in the convention center not far from here in a couple of weeks, where we have 140,000 people who come through in a weekend. So I try to hand out little postcards, which are on some of your tables, of a girl throwing a paper airplane, to direct them directly to this Facebook page of videos where you have 2-minute clips of women in different kinds of jobs in science and engineering. Because often what happens at Ontario University's Fair is I'm standing at a booth like this that says engineering, and I'm next to the booth that says science and the one that says medicine, and these girls come up together, kind of, looking around, and there's a big line at the medicine booth, and there's a medium line at the science booth, and our line maybe is not so long sometimes, and they say, "Are you science?" And I say, no, we're engineering. And they go, ooh, they have this look on their face like it's disgusting, I say, well, while you're waiting for the medicine booth, let me tell you about science and engineering. I hand them these cards. So it works, I think, I hope. So we found some really interesting women to profile, and we've made 3 videos. It's a bit more expensive to make a video than just a website. So Catherine Suveltsi, is up there on the right, is a space engineer. She pretty much runs this whole radio telescope observatory, which is in Algonquin Park. I don't know if you've been there. I think it's a 46-meter dish. It's quite the installation that the government decided to mothball, and a small company that employs Catherine has taken it over. So quite an exciting job. And on the bottom left there is Natasha D'souza. She's a technology entrepreneur, we call her, but she has her own social media company, and she writes apps for kids with autism. So again, try to bring topics to them that are interesting, that they might think about changing the world or helping people. Not every woman who comes in this field likes that branding that sometimes we give it, but I think if you're going to up the numbers of women or girls that are come into these fields, you do have to speak to that issue about changing the world and helping people, serving the world. That does increase the numbers. So I'll just show you some little bits of these videos, but you can go see them online.
I get to turn new ideas into successful innovations. A technology entrepreneur is somebody that solves a problem through the use of technology and workflows. My company, Virtualize helps clients leverage the latest technologies. I spend part of my day being a consultant where I build technology solutions for my clients, and I build interactive games for young children.
Okay, so you get the idea. All the videos are short. They all have the sort of same format, introduction, title. So try to keep a standard there and try to use language. So we spend a lot of time editing what they're actually going to say and how they're going to say it so that it's aimed at a specific audience. The other thing I told you about was it's on Facebook. So we learned that, kids go to Facebook, people my age or older, email, people in between forget email. So you have to know your audience, where you're going to go and try to reach them.
Ce qu'il y a de plus cool dans mon travail, c'est qu'en tant que chercheuse, je génère de nouvelles connaissances et j'ai aussi la chance de visiter des endroits extraordinaires.
There's very little material in French out there,
Ce que je fais dans mon travail, c'est très varié. Je supervise des étudiants, j'enseigne en classe, je fais des interactions avec d'autres chercheurs, avec des compagnies. La géophysique appliquée, on a géo qui correspond aux matériaux rocheux et puis on a physique qui correspond aux propriétés physiques des roches. Les propriétés physiques, ça peut être comme la densité ou la conductivité électrique. Donc la démarche, ça commence par l'étude de petits échantillons en laboratoire dans des conditions très contrôlées.
Does anybody know Claire Sanson? I thought she's in your field. She's a professor at Carleton University, but she worked for oil companies in Holland and all over the world, so she has quite a bit of experience. She had one of the best quotes I ever heard, and she said, "Do you know what the glass ceiling is? The glass ceiling is when your job is no longer challenging, and then you get out. You go somewhere else." So no blame laid, but, whoops. You can tell I'm Greek. No blame laid, but advocate for yourself or figure out what the next step is for you if this is just not working for you. And this one is Catherine Soubeltsidis with the radio telescope.
The coolest thing about my job is working at Canada's largest radio telescope. At the Algonquin Radio Observatory, I'm the head of research and development. I get to try out new technologies at the observatory and see if we can place them in with the existing technologies here, as well as maintain and document everything that's in use. The Algonquin Radio Observatory is the most accurately mapped location in Canada. We're mapped to 1 millimeter against the galactic plane. The current research that we're doing here is based on pulsars. So pulsars are very tightly packed neutron stars and are very different than anything we've seen on the planet Earth. Why do we care about pulsars? Well, because they're so different and we have a curious nature, we want to explore them and understand them and see what they have to do with us in the universe.
Okay, I'm going to switch topics a little bit and talk a bit about our association with Pratt & Whitney Canada, who's been a great supporter even before I had the chair. I had the privilege of working with them to start up their Women's Leadership Committee. So there are companies out there who have programs to develop leadership for women within the company. I would say that the top execs of the company are quite interested in finding out certain things, which are, number one, why they have so many talented women and those women aren't necessarily rising to the top. Not that their numbers are bad, they have quite good numbers, about 14% in management and above. But they're truly willing to ask the hard questions and try to find out through a couple of research programs we have with them, and then many events that we also conduct with them, and then now they've gone on to do their own. But supporting the chair has been a great thing for the province, for the country, I would say, for them to show leadership that they want to participate in this, and not only support by putting some funds there, but also by actively engaging their employees in the activities. So I run about 2 activities a year in Mississauga, in their plant in Mississauga, because I have the Ontario chair. And so the activities are for women sometimes, but sometimes they're for everybody. So we did run cultural diversity workshops to start with, where we had 50 men, 50 women in the room, and those were tremendously successful. But you can see their thinking has evolved through this video here. Amanda Ennis, who's an engineer at Pratt & Whitney, who's extremely enthusiastic, like many of the women we had here today, was chosen to be the spokesperson for their new engine, the PW800. So I'll show you a bit of this video. And I think it's really important that a woman engineer, or an engineer first of all, and then a woman engineer got to do this video. And I was told that several people were interviewed to see who was going to do the video. And the minute they saw her, they went, she's the one, because she's so enthusiastic and so knowledgeable about all the engineering that went into this engine.
Pratt & Whitney Canada has a legacy of setting new benchmarks for dependable services and products. With our legendary PT6, PW100, and other engine families, we have made our mark on this industry. And today, we're here to do it once more, with the introduction of our Pure Power PW800 engine family, the new standard of excellence. So the PW800 means performance in terms of fuel efficiency. It shares a common core with the rest of the Pure Power engine family. When it comes to dispatching the aircraft, we have been able to decrease the delays and cancellations by 30%. That's a significant number. You have the longest maintenance intervals in the industry, 40% less maintenance to do, and 20% less inspections. In the nacelle door at the bottom, there are steps to allow a full person access right into the core. The PW800 really changes the game. What I really love about our fan is that it's an IBR fan. That means there's no blades to replace. It's a single piece fan.
I think you get the idea. She's quite a good spokesperson. I'll just leave you with this. This is a business case somebody alluded to this morning. This was published by Women in WinSet, which is part of, it's an offshoot of CC West, Canadian Coalition for Women in Science, Engineering, Technology, and the Trades. And this is a document you can get your hands on either online or in print form. But some of the research that would help you have the discussion if people ask you, well, why do we need to have more women in these fields? We have plenty of examples this morning why we should have more women in these fields, but if you need a go-to list, here it is. And so one of them is increased innovation potential, right? So diverse teams will come up with better solutions, as Louise said this morning. And the types of concerns that come up may not have come up otherwise unless you had a woman on the team, just as Sherry said about those word clouds. And I think somebody was telling me about, I think recently in the States on the Armed Services Committee, there were some women, some newer women senators who were involved in readiness of the forces, and they came up with such different criteria for readiness of the forces. They talked about mental readiness and things like that that perhaps were not discussed before. It would have been more about, you know, do we have the equipment? Do we have the manpower and things like that? So this is a good list if you're interested in that, and some good quotes also by important people in our country about or how it's important to have women in these fields. So I'll leave you with that. Oh, and sorry, I have one more slide, but I think Ruby addressed it this morning, even have the same picture. It's important to document the accomplishments of women in these fields, and so we invite you to join our movement of Wise Legacy to archive the histories of women in these fields. Thank you.